We'll give this bike a clean up. The rear bash plate had a shovel full of dirt on it. This forward bash plate was a lot cleaner, didn't have a lot of mud on top of it. It looks like it had recently replaced bolts, so all four came out easily. They weren't original bolts, so. And the bottom side of this plate looked quite black, powder coated, painted in good condition, so the top doesn't look as brand new, but yeah, it was good to remove so that I can get to where the oil pump picks up from this plate here, which I will remove and check the filter from. I've got a bolt to remove from here and a bottom of an engine that could do with the degrease. I think we've got an oil leak around at the crankcase, at the crankshaft around here. There's oil in the bottom here, which I think is leaking out of that bearing seal, so it might be something that I address as well. Rear brake just on the one side. It's cable operated through the foot pedal comes back through that cable and it works that lever there. Uni joints on this model have still got the rubbers on them in reasonable shape. That's the bottom of the tow bar. So it's really just this rear plate here that was thickly covered in mud. But on my other bike, the mud and build-up completely rotted out these tubes all the way around here. There's actually a complete break through the tube about here, and so both rear tubes right through to around here were replaced with new ones on my other bike. If you're interested in looking at that, there's video of that up on YouTube, I think entitled frame something. Anyway, that's just been pressure washed so far. There's some like concretey stuff on there that the pressure washer hasn't knocked off, but I'll give it another go. It's just around there. Pressure washer seems to even move the greasy stuff pretty well, and there was a bit of a greasy stuff in this area. There's still a little bit there, but a little bit there. I can give them another go. So this is the front mud guards, the front plastics as I've called them in other videos. I'm going to give it a shot with the pressure washer underneath and see what comes off those. I can't see what I'm filming, but that's the rear. Plastics with a bit of a shot with the pressure washer. There's some crusty bits here that I think it's almost like concrete, just in a small section there. There's still a couple of bits around there. That one's pretty good. Okay, I'm prepping the bike, ready to give it a pressure wash. I've got the snorkel taped up there. I think that's really the only area where water can get in to the engine. I've got the recoil off there still. You can see this little bit of oil forming here. I think that's a oil seal leaking, and it's probably responsible for the oil down this side of the engine and down on the frame, and was on top of the drip plate there. So over time there's a leak there. Otherwise I'll be a little bit careful as to where I fire the pressure. I'll remove that little funnel here and plug it back into the fuel pump there. That's the little plug I made in the end for the fuel pump. So I don't want water going down that funnel in the carburetor. This battery drain line leaked fluid onto the ground there. That's battery acid, caused that white mark on the ground when the bike was tipped up on its nose. I diluted that a fair bit. I think electrics that are under here can be sprayed. It'll be interesting whether water gets into things where it shouldn't and causes some hassles, but overall the bike's supposed to be designed for that sort of thing. Around this side, yeah, it's mainly just mud stuck to the bike that I think I'll try and get off with this pressure washer. I took the wheels off so that I could get in and around the suspension components. You notice doing a walk around the bike now what bits are rusty, which when it was covered in mud you couldn't really identify rusty and clean powder coat tubes. There are bolts in the suspension holding the shockers on, and some of the bolts into the crankcase and things, that the heads of them are rusty. On my other bike, because I had all of those out and I gave them all a polish up on the wire wheel, it went from a rusty mess to something quite shiny and looking good. There's some parts that may benefit from a light degrease. I'll do that and give it another wash. Oh, it's looking a bit cleaner. Interesting what the water's got into. But there's been some corrosion on these front drums. They're beautiful on the inside, but knocked about on the outside. At least now I can target a few areas and tidy them up a bit more. I've got a can of black zinc spray paint that will fix up some of these rusty areas. You don't notice when you're spraying where you miss, and little bits like this aren't important, but unless they get a direct shot with the spray. There'll be places underneath that I couldn't direct a direct stream of spray, and so there'll be still a bit of mud and dirt in a few crevices, but otherwise it's pretty good. As always, get out to your shed and have some fun.